Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Scott Luton and the one and only Kim Reuter here with you on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's live stream. Hey, Kim, how you doing
Hi,
today?
I'm doing great. Happy New Year. We have not seen each other this New Year.
Hey, it's been a busy start, I think, for you and for us, and it's great to reconnect
Yes.
because we've got a great show here today, Kim. Great show. So, folks, y'all know what it is. Every Monday at 12 noon Eastern Time, it's The Buzz, where we discuss a variety of news and developments across global supply chain and business. We got tons of great topics. Kim, key takeaways from NRF's big show, supply chain leadership priorities for 2025. Hey, the startup environment across supply chain. Get ready for a big year, we think there. All that and a whole bunch more. Plus, about 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time, we've got a special guest joining us, Pam Simon with Manifest 2025. We're going to get a sneak peek of what's taking place at this rock and roll industry show in just a few weeks. Kim, should be a jam-packed hour, huh?
Lots. We're covering it all today.
Yes, we are. We're earning our paycheck and then some here today. So, folks, stay tuned. Two things before we get going. Hey, give us your take in the comments, just like Amanda and Trish and the team are sharing this comment here. Say hello, where you're watching from, all that good stuff. Just like Reb shared here. Reb via LinkedIn from Oman. Hey, great to see you. Looking forward to your perspective throughout the conversation here today. Speaking of two things. Give us your take in the comments, like Reb just did, whether you're tuned in via LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Facebook, Twitch, no matter. Let us know what you think. And secondly, if you enjoy this show, if you learn from this show, because I promise you, between Kim and Pam, you will, hey, share it with your friend or your network. They'll be glad you did. Okay, Kim, you ready to get going?
Yes, always ready.
You are always ready. You are already. That's like a battery brand, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep.
All right. Couple things before we hit our first story. First off, folks, we shared the latest With That Said, our almost weekly newsletter published over the weekend. And folks, mark your calendar. National Supply Chain Day is coming up once again, April 29th. We shared a little bit of the backstory related to NSCD. Y'all know we love our acronyms, as well as where its founder, Mary Kate Love, is taking this special day in the years ahead. We also touched on, Kim, DeepSeek, China's big foray to ramp up its AI game, trade and tariffs, including a recently announced economic development plan that Mexico's laying out. Hey, how about how to make your CFO a supply chain super fan? Great article by Corinne Bursa. All that plus news, views, resources, events, and more. Kim, did you get a chance to take a quick glance through With That Said over the weekend?
I did have a quick check look at that. And
Okay.
I think the thing that stuck out with me the most was what's going on down in Mexico. So
Yes.
we're seeing our partner down there. We're all part of North America, the North American way, as we like to say. And we see Mexico making some pretty massive moves. They're going to start moving into more internal, moving nearshore, moving manufacturing in. They're going to try to become more of a distribution point for North America. They're really making some great moves, which I think are somewhat complementary to the moves that we're seeing happen in the United States. We're also making similar moves here as well. So it's interesting to see how these things are going to play out. I think they could very well balance each other out and make a really strong partnership, since we both are kind of thinking about things the same way.
Kim, love it. The North American way. How about that? And we're going to touch more on what Mexico is planning and towards the end of today's show. So good stuff there, Kim. All right. Speaking of, let's see. I want to welcome in also. Well, actually, you can check out With That Said right there. We dropped the link. You're one click away right there in the comments. Also want to welcome in Juan from Tennessee. Beautiful Tennessee here in the U.S. Let us know what part of Tennessee, Juan, and because if it's East or West, your views on food and barbecue or music may be a little bit different. So, Juan, great to see you. Maria's back. Cheers from Madrid. Hope this finds you well, Maria. Always a pleasure to have you join us. And, hey, Shelly, via LinkedIn, greetings to you as well. If you had a great weekend doing big things there across industry. Okay, so that was our first. One other thing I want to share with folks. We got big news from our friends at EasyPost. The most reliable shipping API is taking things to the next level. Folks, EasyPost is just about ready to launch Luma, the first multi-carrier shipping AI trained by billions, yes, billions of historical shipments to revolutionize the way you ship. Now, with Luma, you're going to get performance insights, predictive simulations, so you can test those carrier combinations, and automated rate selection to guarantee the best label every single time. It's not just shipping, is what I'm hearing. It's smarter shipping. And folks, it's launching February 10th, 2025, and it's ready to transform your shipping strategy. If you want to be a part, if you want to be ahead of the game, check out the link we're dropping there, and you can join the wait list. You can be among the first to kick the tires. Now, Kim, I bet when you kick the tires on something, you kick it real hard. Is that right?
I do, very hard. I don't want to kick it once. That's my philosophy.
All right. So, folks, we'll have to see. We'll get Kim and Lumina together. We'll see. All right. We got so much to get into here today. So much. We got one story that we're going to hit before Pam Simon with Manifest joins us. But before we hit that, I want to welcome just a few folks. Hey, LK, Larry Klein is back. It's been too long. Larry, I hope this finds you well, my friend. You were sharing some stuff from your personal journey last time we had connected, but hope you got great news for us. Maybe you can share later today. And Juan delivered to what we asked, Collierville, Tennessee. Now, have you been there, Kim? I've never been to Collierville. I wonder
I feel like I've driven through it.
Okay. So Juan, put it on the dot, and most importantly, glad you are here. Also, whether it is with that said we covered or the news about Luma from our friends at Easy Post, we got the links right there. You're one click away from checking that out. Okay. Let's do this. Kim, have you ever been to the big show?
I have not been to the big show. I will say that's the one show that I have not been to yet. It's on my list to go to, though.
Okay. We gotta let's me and you plan. Maybe we'll take the whole gang and we're gonna go to the big show next year. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
Well, check out this. Now, this is an interesting story we want to cover before Pam Simon with Manifest joins us. As reported by Retail Brew, business leaders were talking about all kinds of stuff at the big show, which for those that may not know, and that's okay, it's a massive trade show hosted by our friends at the National Retail Federation each and every year. But what were some of the key takeaways when it comes to what is on the mind of fashion executives that attended? Well, Kim, here's a couple things from this article via Retail Brew. Tommy Hilfiger, yes, that Tommy Hilfiger. Well, he was touting the immense value of focus and making big bets on artificial intelligence. In fact, he said, quote, AI is going to change everything. AI is going to propel business ahead. And there's danger in it also, but I think that you have to stay abreast of what is going on in the tech world, because the tech world is going to sort of be the horse that pulls the wagon. Mm-hmm. When we started doing 3D design almost 15 years ago, it sped up everything in terms of product development, supply chain, and it changed the way we designed, end quote. Mm-hmm. So talk about a tough sector, Kim, to manage supply chains in. Think of trends that come and go like ships in the night in the fashion world.
Yes.
Now, Guess, some of my fellow Gen Xers out there know what I'm talking about. Guess, the company behind those famous Guess jeans back in the day. Well, a couple of their executives were talking about using tech to optimize a personalized customer experience. And then, Kim, I'm going to get your thoughts here. You had Tony Spring, the still relatively new chairman and CEO of Macy's, who was defending and rationalizing the role of physical department stores in the modern retail landscape. Now, Kim, with all of your leadership experience, Manifest, Amazon, Nordstrom, and so much else, I can't wait to get your take on some of these topics they were talking about at the big show.
So super fascinating, right? Because fashion, when we start to look at fashion and fashion manufacturing, fashion supply chain, we have this really interesting intersection of creativity, which is the fashion part of it, and then the actual technology and physical processes that have to happen in order to make that creative vision come to life. And so I get really excited when we start talking about fashion and technology, especially fashion and supply chain, because you just talked about inventory turns, fashion turns, style turns, all related to supply chain. But when we start to look at AI and what Tommy Hilfiger was talking about and how they're using AI, it's super interesting, and that they're using it to speed up the creation of new products. They're using it to be more efficient in their manufacturing, and they're using it to do pattern cutting and designing to eliminate waste. That is super interesting to hear that Tommy Hilfiger is not only using AI to kind of touch maybe a little bit in the creative space, but more about driving efficiency in the supply chain.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And Kim, you and I both have been talking a lot and offering up use cases and best practices for those industry leaders leveraging AI and lots of other cutting edge technology to better execute and operate on the visions that supply chain and business leaders have. And on that last point, because you were talking about vision too, it's so important. You know, being creative and having a vision, folks, that's not good enough. We got to find ways of communicating that vision and telling that story, and better yet, figuring out how to execute on that vision and the art of the possible. And Kim, that's where the rubber meets the road, because humanity has seen all sorts of really big ideas, but far fewer folks that can bring them into reality, huh?
Right. To bring them reality, and then also make them to scale. Like, you can produce something once. That's cute. You can produce it 100 times. It's super cute. But can you produce it 1,000,000 times, 100 million times at the same cost, at the same effort, maybe less cost, less effort? So I think, that's where we start to see where technology really is starting to really influence in the fashion industry, is that there are aspects of fashion that are hard to scale, and we're able to use technology to help with that.
Kim, I love it. We could have several hours staying on this one topic. I want to close with this. Amanda and Trisha, if y'all could, we had a great live stream a few months back with two supply chain leaders and technology leaders that spent lots of time at retail. And they talked in particular, we had some intriguing conversations around retail planning, Kim, and accounting for all the fads and the trends, you name it. So if we could drop a link to that show there in the chat, that would be wonderful. All right. We mentioned guests, right? LK says, hey, don't forget those posters, those iconic posters from back in the day. That's right. LK. And yes, I'd love to get, I'll tell you what, Larry, if you're going to be around for the whole hour, we'd love to get good news and an update on your personal journey, maybe towards the end of the show. So great to have you here. Okay, Kim, speaking of great to have folks here, we got an outstanding guest joining us here now. Are you ready to go?
Yes. Bring her in.
We are going to swoosh our guest in. Our guest is a successful entrepreneur and business connector with more than 20 years of experience in content creation, producing successful tech conferences, and a whole bunch more. And some call her the connecting queen. I want to welcome in Pam Simon with Manifest. Hey, Pam, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Hi.
You bet. Kim, we really enjoyed our pre-show conversation with Pam and the gang earlier, didn't we?
We did. We got off on a couple of cute tangents. It was great.
We did. And we talked, of course, we don't have any pre-show conversations that don't touch on food. And we're talking about how we prepare for the big game coming up now that it's set. And that's what I want to get both of y'all to weigh in on, Pam and Kim. The Super Bowl. That's right. It's the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Kansas City Chiefs. It was all nailed down yesterday, right? To the celebration of many and to the chagrin of some. But it should be a good game, Eagles and Chiefs. So I'm going to ask you both. Pam, who you got? Who's going to win the Super Bowl 2025?
I mean, I'm a Dolphins Patriots fan. Sorry, guys. So I can go with the Chiefs again.
Okay. All right. And they would do, if your prediction comes true, it'll be the first team, I think, in all of NFL history to win Super Bowl 3 years in a row. That's remarkable. That is remarkable. All right, Kim. Pam calls Chiefs. Who you got?
I'm going to go with the Eagles. I'm not a huge football fan, but I do have relatives in Philly. So are they still in Philadelphia?
Okay. Yeah,
okay.
They are. That's gonna be a tough team. It's gonna be a great game. That's what I'm pulling for. I'm pulling for the great game. For my dear friend Greg White, I'll shout out to the Chiefs, because I know that he is, I'm sure, excited about pulling off a never before seen feat. Also, one quick thing, folks, if you want great recipes on what you want to roll out at your football party, Pam and Kim both have got some great tips. So feel free to comment in the chat. We'll see if we can't make that happen. Some are easier to make happen than others, but all right, Pam and Kim, we got so much to get into here today. So much. And by the way, the team did drop that episode. I mentioned key trends shaping the future of fashion retail. Y'all check that out. You're going to love that conversation. Pam, for context, right? We got the smartest audience in all of global supply chain, I promise you. But for context about you and your background, would you tell us about your journey and, of course, what you do over at Manifest?
Of course. So as you mentioned, I love connecting people, and I've been doing that in a variety of ways throughout my entire career. Prior to Manifest, I was a venture investor at Lab Ventures. And while I was there, we started a series of conferences as we started to do some company building. And one of them was Future of Logistics Tech. So that was acquired by Connective in 2019. And now we are it's now called Manifest. So Manifest is the largest global end-to-end supply chain event, and it's a full ecosystem. So we're expecting about 6,000 executives from over 50 countries.
Okay.
Investors, startups, tech, and then for shippers, anyone that's moving goods around the world. So every big box, CPG, cold, fresh storage, you name it. If you're moving goods around the world or investing in that process, then you should be joining me and Scott and Kim at Manifest in 2 weeks at the Venetian in Las Vegas.
Ooh, I love that. And folks, it's just around the corner. She said 2 weeks. Let's see, February 10th through the 12th at the Venetian in Las Vegas. Gosh. Now, Kim, I know you do a ton of events. But I'll tell you, Manifest, they've been on a roll. I think this is the fourth one coming up. Pam, is that right?
That's right.
So Kim, all that sounds good. And folks, Red 19. You head to Vegas, you want a tip? Bet the farm on Red 19. Kim, are you looking forward to Manifest 2025? We got to get you in Vegas sometime soon.
It is. It's one of the biggest events. And as Pam mentioned, like it covers everything from soup to nuts, which is great. It's probably one of the only events I know of that really that covers supply chain from beginning to end. A lot of them sort of focus, TPM as an example, focus on an aspect of it. So great conference. Glad to see that it's on year 4 and looking forward to year 40.
I like how you think, Kim. I bet Pam does too.
Yeah.
Here in crunch time of year number 4. It has been exciting to see. We're going to touch more on Manifest 2025 here towards the end of today's appearance by Pam, including some reasons you got to check out this year's versus previous years. But for now, Pam and Kim, I want to shift over to talking about supply chain leadership priorities here in 2025. So our friend Richard Howells, hope this finds you well if you're tuned in, recently published a great read in Forbes where he touches on a few supply chain predictions and priorities for the new year. So check this out, folks. I'll get both of y'all, Kim and Pam, to respond here and give us your thoughts in just a second. He points out the ultimate supply chain balancing act, how companies must effectively activate and leverage their supply chain for competitive advantage while supply chain leaders are managing risk, all sorts of risks, optimizing operational resilience, controlling costs, and of course, fueling change and digital transformation. Everyone's heard that term once or 2 million times. Richard points out a few thoughts shared by our friends Lisa Anderson and Sarah Barnes Humphrey on past podcasts, including the need for ensuring supply chain decisions are rooted in data. Of course, that's been a big time trend in recent years, especially our ability to make decisions easier and more successful and faster. The continued evolution of supply chain tech to allow for predictive operational intervention. That's quite a phrase. So you can prevent some problems from happening before they ever start to emerge. How important it is not to lose the human element in digital transformations. And folks, I guess y'all know I like good news better than bad news, but a little bad news. If you're sick of hearing about cybersecurity, we've got some bad news because as Lisa Anderson says, quote, cybersecurity will be the cornerstone to supply chain strategy. So Pam, when it comes to chief supply chain officers, chief procurement officers, chief operations officers, chief folks moving stuff, as you were saying it earlier, what are some of the things they are prioritizing that you're seeing here in the new year?
So there's a bevy of different topics that they're looking into, from supply chain management, organizational design capabilities, and adoption of technology for effective decision making. Of course, sustainability and cybersecurity with resilience are top of mind. And I think we talked about this earlier, but there'll definitely be a lot more M&A activities. So I think there's more consolidation coming. More collaboration, so to speak.
That's right. More connecting, right? Going to your DNA there, Pam. And we're going to touch on that in just a second, kind of like the startup landscape in a second with our next story. But Kim, weigh in. I mean, you're working with a variety of movers and shakers across the industry. What are some of their priorities here in the new year?
The biggest priority I've seen in companies are working on is really predictability and trying to figure out what kind of supply chain do we need? We have a lot of moving parts. We have a new administration, which is shaking things up a little bit. We see Mexico making some big moves. A lot of U.S. importers are using the Mexico corridor to optimize their duty payment and savings. So we're seeing a lot of shifting happen, and a lot of people are hedging. Do we pull in early? Do we wait? Contract negotiations are coming up for ocean freight. So there's a lot out there around predictability, and a lot of people are talking about how do we use AI to predict customer behavior, right? Because that is what's going to drive our forecast, our buys, our budgets, everything. So there's a lot of focus out there on how do we get a clearer picture on what we need.
Kim, love that. And as you shared your perspective, I think when some folks hear a 5-syllable word like predictability, I think that's 5 syllables, right? They may kind of be turned off, but I think to put it in really layman's terms or just bare bones, I mean, think about it. I love working with predictable people, right? I love working with predictable suppliers or customers, or gosh, if I knew exactly what problems I was going to have in 2025 because I could predict them, I mean, imagine all the headaches and stress we would save. So naturally, supply chains, they crave predictability, right? Because to your point, we can deliver and delight our customers like never before if we have a better idea of where we're going.
Yep.
Did I get all that right, Kim?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. And Pam, your last word. Pam, I think you're nodding your head too. Predictability is a wonderful thing, whether it's supply chain or people, or all points. Is that right?
Yes, across the board. I think predictability when it comes to the entire process that you're running in your organization and inventory and shipping. And then, yes, of course, with people as well. But it's not just predictive anymore. It's also prescriptive. So figure out, where we're going. What if something happens? What are some of the things, like how do you plan ahead even further to, anticipate when those disruptions happen?
Excellent point. Anticipation. Who's singing that song? Kim, I feel like we've said that before when that came up. I'm sure Amanda or Trisha, y'all let me know. Good stuff there, Pam and Kim. Good stuff. I want to, hey, Claudia, great to see you. Claudia says, thank you, Scott, Kim, and Pam for breaking things down, helping us to see the big picture. Well, you bet, Claudia. Glad you're here, and I'm looking forward to your keynote at the Reverse Logistics Association conference coming up soon. Tomcat is back. So Pam and Kim, Tomcat is like a supply chain poet. Tomcat says, diversified networks, weathering storms, AI optimizes supply chain flow, sustainable growth, balanced, and resilient. Yeah. Little haiku for me there. Thank you there, Tomcat. Really always appreciate your views. And going back to the article that prompted the discussion, folks, don't take our word for it. Check it out. We're dropping a link right here, which you can check it out on your own, and tip of the hat to Richard Howells, Lisa, and Sarah for good stuff to prompt conversations everywhere, we hope. All right, so Pam and Kim, let's shift gears. Let's talk about one of my favorite topics, not just startups, but supply chain startups. So check this out. We have been working hard, Kim and Pam, to increase and enhance all of our blogs at Supply Chain Now. So this comes to us from supplychainnow.com. How about that? So a few factoids related on the startup scene in our industry. Did you know for 2024, venture capital investments in supply chain tech and tech-based logistics companies. Well, that totaled somewhere around $15.4 billion. Now, according to a report by Kearney, the biggest capital investments have been in delivery technology, warehouse automation, supply chain digitization, I can never say that word, and artificial intelligence. Now, generally speaking, here's some good news. Goldman Sachs and a whole bunch of other experts say signs are pointing to a faster pace and lots more activity when it comes to mergers and acquisitions here in 2025. Some say there's going to be a surge of M&A activity this year, including those infusing capital into supply chain startups. Now, folks, check out this blog because the 3 startups we referenced that are kind of in different points in time in their journey are DOS, DrumKit, and Verison. So, Pam, we're all entrepreneurs here, so I can't wait to get you and Kim's perspective. What are some of your thoughts when you consider that investor, startup landscape, ecosystem, you name it? What are you seeing?
I mean, I completely agree, which is why I always do an investor session at Manifest, but this year we're adding an M&A panel. So that there's so many companies that are going through this process, and you need to be prepared not only, as the CEO and founder, but then for your company, when you go through an acquisition, all the different moving pieces that are involved, and how to do it in the most smooth, efficient way. So we'll dive further into that at Manifest, as well as when it comes to connecting with investors and startups. At Manifest, we already have over 200 different funds in attendance. So companies are able, of all different sizes, so from super early stage investing all the way through your investment bank, family office, you mentioned Goldman, they'll all be at Manifest. So a lot of these relationships and investments, they actually get started by conversations that have taken place on our show floor. And you never know who you're going to meet or when that will, come to fruition. So there are a number of investors that have met startups at Manifest, the first year, and are now in the process of deploying capital or running the next M&A for them, 4 years later. So it's really exciting to see. There's a lot of interest.
It is. And so a couple of things I picked up on there, Kim, what Pam was sharing. She talked about the importance of the wiring of organizations, right? When companies come together via M&A, you name it, that wiring, especially on from an execution and operational standpoint, is critical. And we've seen some really big deals that looks great on paper, but they really missed on the wiring, right? She mentioned the value of having the conversations and meeting people, making those connections. 200 funds at Manifest. Dang. Also, one last thought, Kim, is she talked about kind of this notion of creating our own luck, right? Creating our own serendipity. And that is some of the most successful people I know have been the biggest believers of the importance of doing just that on this journey we're on. So, Kim, what'd you hear there? And what are you seeing in the world of M&A and venture capital, you name it?
So what I heard from Pam is that if you want some money, go to Manifest. But what we're seeing in the startup world, it's interesting that we're having a lot of conversations about M&A, because if you look at this, we're about 3 years post-pandemic, right? And we had a lot of supply chain startups come out of the pandemic. So after about 3 years is when a startup is gonna make it or not gonna make it. That's about the tipping point for most true technology startups. So it makes sense that we're gonna see a lot of M&A in the market today. If you are a startup, if you are thinking about a startup, don't let this hold you back. Don't let this M&A action that's going to be happening, don't let that bring your spirits down, because this is a cycle. We see this cycle quite often. We saw an M&A cycle, about 10 years ago around, it was door delivery with DoorDash and all of those kind of companies. There was a big consolidation around that. So we're just seeing the next cycle of it. And it happens to be around supply chain because that's what came out of the pandemic.
Love that. Been there, done that perspective, an encouraging message there, Kim, and so much good truth there. Pam and Kim, here's a question for y'all. Tomcat asked a great question, and folks, we may not have the perfect answers top of mind this morning, and we'll see if we can't follow up. But Tomcat says, hey, are there specific platforms, networks, or accelerators that cater to introducing seed and angel investors to supply chain focused startup? Well, I think Pam has already shared one, Manifest, and certainly Manifest and other trade shows are great places to be. Pam, as someone that really loves this space, any other resources that you might want to drop that come to mind?
I mean, I'm happy to kind of share in the comments after, because there's so many different funds and accelerators and programs that are looking at technology. You're also seeing, you know, more CVC, and then also some of these brands and companies that are doing their own, you know, technology dive outreach. So for example, I mean, Walmart just hosted something in India, so that they were able to meet with a bunch of startups related to technology and supply chain for their operations in India. And now they're working with them. So we're seeing a lot more companies actually leaning in to solve their own problems in a more efficient way.
That's right.
Obviously, Come to Manifest is the largest group of people in one for you to meet.
Well, and I think one of the things you mentioned there that is one of the trends that has been around for, I don't know, I'll call it 15 years, but we could probably make it other time frames, is the appetite for big companies to find ways of working with startups. You know, years ago, that appetite was a lot different. That tolerance was a lot different. And now, gosh, think of some of the most successful relationships that came out of big companies' willingness to invest in new ideas, new companies, new leadership, new ways. And it hasn't always been like that. Kim, your final comment here on startups, appetite for companies using startups, new ideas, you name it. Your final word here.
So, you know, obviously I worked for the biggest startup in the world. So I've got a little bit of experience with it, but, you know, you talk about, you know, companies partnering with startups and bringing together either collaboration. Sometimes that ends up in a gobble fest where they just eat up the smaller company. But we do have a lot of examples out there of companies that have big companies partnering with small companies. And the biggest one that comes to mind is Amazon almost 15 years ago, starting to partner with small regional carriers. That's when we started to really define the last mile. We started to bump out UPS and FedEx and DHL and started to work with Lightning Logistics and little tiny guys that had 10 or 15 trucks. Or not even trucks. Some of them were just driving around on their cars, like very early days were cars. We had customers complaining because, you know, there's somebody at my door at 9 p.m. Oh my God, they have an Amazon package. What do I do? But that's what it was 15 years ago, right? But that is a great example of a big, huge company partnering with little tiny companies to completely change the market.
Love it. I love it. You know, UPS comes to mind. Another large behemoth that is invested in or has created investment funds for seeding and eventually working with folks from across the startup ecosystem. So probably the first point we're making, or first 2 points we're making, I think, Kim and Pam, is go to Manifest, right? But also, Tomcat, great question, by the way. Check out some of the corporate initiatives. They aren't all the same. Some are really not well done. Some are really well done. And then, of course, there's no shortage of podcasts and certain specific innovation centers, certain investment firms that really specialize and help serve as powerful resources for supply chain startups. So check that out. Great question. Okay. I want to encourage folks to not only check out this article we just talked about, but check out all of our blog series. You'll find that right on our website at supplychainnow.com. And stay tuned. We got a new website coming out. Not soon. We'll say let's target 2026. I don't want to give anybody heart attacks behind the scene. January 2026. Let's target that. All right. So Pam, if there's been one theme through the first part of today's show, it is go to Manifest, and Manifest 2025 coming up soon, like in 2 weeks, as we talked about, February 10th through the 12th at the Venetian in Las Vegas. I think we're dropping a link. You check that out right there. We've got the link to Manifest 2025, as well as a link to the previous article we were talking about. And as we were also sharing, you know, we've all been to a ton of supply chain events. This is my first time at Manifest. I'm delighted. I can't wait. And better yet, Pam, thanks to you and your team, I am facilitating this roundtable with some dynamos, folks, all talking about unlocking and acting on true end-to-end visibility. So check that session out if you're going to be there. But two-part question for you, Pam.
Yeah.
what are some of the things you're most excited about this year at Manifest? And let's be sure for you to share some details on a very special women's luncheon set for this year.
I mean, for me, I'm always excited because we work on this event all year round. So seeing everything come to life and bringing everyone together, I think the best compliment that I've gotten was that when you go to Manifest, it feels like your LinkedIn coming to life. So it's it does though. It is. It's such an amazing environment, and everyone is really open and excited to hear about what you're doing and talk to you. So I'm obviously very excited to see everything come to life. And we are expecting, 6,000 attendees from over 50 countries. So it is global.
Yep.
So those are things that are very exciting for me. I think from an audience perspective, an attendee perspective, we have 150 sessions. So depending on whatever part of the supply chain or area that you're interested in, there's something for everyone, and a number of case studies as well. So you will actually be able to hear how these companies are working together. One that comes to mind immediately was, Zipline and Cleveland Clinic, and how they're actually deploying drones for medical and critical time related issues. So that's very exciting. And the app is live. So now people are scheduling meetings and, preparing in advance, which is always good. We have a lot of fun things on the show floor, from coffee bars by Viho and Return Pro to a beer garden, rosé all day, the famous puppy lounge, the backyard barbecue. And, of course, we have Flo Rida performing for our closing party. I'm also, I'm always excited about our women's luncheon. It is something that is super unique to Manifest. And I think for the industry, like, we're still hearing from people saying thank you. They learned a lot from the previous ones. So we'll be very excited to have the president of the Ohio Girls Club, Girl Scouts of America. And then for the first time, we're having a man as a speaker. So the head of operations for Mary Kay. And we're going to be leaning into mentorship. So even if you're coming to Manifest and you downloaded the app, if you're interested in being a mentor or a mentee, we will be launching that program at the show. So you can choose whichever kind of role you would like to be, or both. Maybe you want to be a mentor and a mentee. Could be either. So you can start that process now. And I'm really excited to see how the conversations that start at Manifest really build and become these incredible relationships and businesses in the future.
It's music to my ears, but I gotta be honest, Kim, when she mentioned Girl Scout cookies, my brain went to Thin Mints, and I had trouble following anything else she shared. Kidding. A lot of good stuff. And of course, rosé all day. Hey, enjoy it, but be careful.
I got stuck there, to be honest with you. Like, that's
okay, please.
And then the puppy lounge kind of tripped me, but then rosé all day that's where I stopped.
That was a killer. Tons of great sessions. Tons of special events, kind of events within events. And the best thing, I think, my favorite that you mentioned, is the ability to finally meet these folks that we've been meeting digitally for years. And man, the relationships, how we can microwave new collaboration opportunities that come out of that. How about Maharaj? He's going to be there in Vegas for Manifest. Great to see you via LinkedIn. Let us know your favorite thing you're looking for, Maharaj. I'd love to get that real-time input. Kim, anything else on your end that Pam shared that you'd call out for folks as being someone that's been and spoke at lots of events around the globe?
Go to as many events as you can, and network. I mean, that's what you're here for. Stay out of your hotel room, put your email down. It can wait. You're there to network. You're there to meet people. You're there to learn. So many times I have, and I'm also guilty of this, gone to an event and then just worked the whole time and didn't really get anything out of it. Right. I mean, Pam's making mad faces at me. Right.
I know. I can't control my face. Sorry.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
So
right. What you're saying.
Yeah. There's so much to learn, and you will always be able to take at least one thing back to your company. That should always be your goal when you go to these events. Take one thing back to your company that's of value.
Excellent point. And to that end, gosh, we could be here all day, but there's so much value, and I'm so glad in-person events are roaring back,
Oh, yes.
right? But you may need to, folks out there, I've seen people very successfully put together the value proposition and deliver that to their organizational leaders that may be springing for their travel. That's a great idea, right? Time and dollars, travel dollars, can be tough sometimes, but that's been a great best practice that I've seen folks do. Also, don't sit, just like Kim said, I gotta stress this. No matter what event you're going to be at, right? Yes, those can be some long days. Yeah, especially when you start at breakfast, lots of sessions, and then dinner. But the meeting people and exchanging perspectives and trading stories, and even talking about non-supply chain stuff, that's where some of the greatest value is. So like Kim said, don't you dare go back to your hotel room and jump on email.
And I was going to say at Manifest on the badges, you have a tile. So when you meet someone, all you got to do is tap. It'll share all your contact information. You're able to follow. So like a lot of times, like as you said, you're going to sessions, you're in meetings, you're kind of running around. Maybe you get to go to the bathroom. If you're in between and you get to talk to someone, but you don't have enough time, great. Tap. It'll send you an email to remind you to follow up with them. And then following up is key.
Nice.
Once you network, follow up.
Very cool.
Nice. It is cool. All right. A couple quick things here. Claudia heard Return Pro. I think that was one of your session sponsors. That's great. And to that end, kind of going back to our last topic, you talk about tons of investment in certain parts of global supply chain. It's so great to see returns management, reverse logistics get more and more attention and dollars. So good call out there. And Shelley says Manifest truly sounds like a great experience, an engaging event. And she appreciates that takeaway you were sharing earlier, Kim, about, hey, get out of the hotel room, get out and engage with folks. Okay, let's do this, Pam. We dropped the link to Manifest right there in the chat. So folks, one click away. If you haven't registered, there's still time to do so. But if they want to connect with you, Pam, maybe they want to share an idea about something for next year, or get you to come in and speak to their organization or event, you name it, or compare notes, you name it. How can folks connect with you, Pam Simon?
LinkedIn is probably the easiest and kind of quickest way. So feel free to message me on there anytime.
Wonderful. And you know what? We're going to help. You're one click away. We drop Pam's LinkedIn profile right there and encourage you to reach out and connect. I'll tell you what, Pam, it has been amazing to see the first one come together and then to see the evolution over the last 4 years. And I'm delighted to be able to finally see it firsthand, right, in person. So I'm looking forward to meeting you and 6,000 of my newest, bestest friends from 50 countries here in a couple weeks. Thanks for being here with us, Pam Simon.
Thanks so much for having me. I look forward to seeing you guys in 2 weeks.
We'll see you in 2 weeks. Big thanks to Pam Simon with Manifest. Pam, we'll see you soon. Oh, Kim, that was good. That was good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the topics, but also enjoyed the, with all the events these days, I don't know about your schedule, but I'll be at Manifest. I'm going to be at ProMat. I'm going to be at Gardner Supply Chain Symposium. I'm going to be at SAPIX in South Africa. I'm looking forward to that one. Yeah, how about that? And I think your advice, and Pam, both of y'all's advice on just the mindset to take at these in-person events, I think it's not talked about enough. And so I'm glad that you shared that here today, especially get out and connect, right? Have real conversations. But I want to ask you this, out of everything we talked about and all that Pam shared, what was one of your favorite takeaways from her segment with us here today on The Buzz?
I think what was most interesting is the increase in M&A that we're going to see. So much so that we're going to host a session about it at Manifest. And I think it's spot on. I mean, if you look at the cycle of startups and, the 3 to 5 year cycle, that's the first round where they're going to make it or not. Like it is, the market is very ripe for a huge amount of M&A supply chain activity to happen. And I think we're even going to see it even in some of the bigger players as well. I don't think this is going to be just left to small startup-ish type companies.
Yep. I tend to agree with you as usual. Good stuff there, Kim. Okay, we got one more topic that we want to hit here today after a great session with Pam Simon with Manifest. Folks, make sure you connect with Pam. And we're going to touch back on something we were talking kind of on the front end. So, folks, y'all check this out. There's been a ton of talk about what the Trump administration will be doing when it comes to global trade and tariffs, right? But here's an interesting story. As Mexico has recently announced an ambitious new economic development plan, and here, as reported by Supply Chain Dive, Mexico President Claudia Sheinbaum has announced the launching, of a $1.4 billion nearshoring incentive package aimed at strengthening the country's role in global supply chains everywhere. Now, get this. Kim, we were kind of talking about this pre-show. Our friend, Sofia Rivas Herrera, who leads Supply Chain Now in Espanol, folks, find that wherever you get your podcasts. She shared a few thoughts about this plan the other day on LinkedIn, and we're going to drop a link to Sophia's perspective here. Some of her observations: the plan aims to ensure that 50% of products consumed in Mexico is of local origin. It seems, it seeks to expand vaccine manufacturing in Mexico, opening jobs in production, distribution, warehousing, and more. And speaking of jobs, the plan seeks to create 1.5 million skilled jobs. Love that. So here in a broader context, we're talking about this also pre-show. That going back to kind of that North American way phrase you shared earlier. A lot of talk, and there's going to be some sort of action follow-up when it comes to trade and tariff actions that will be coming between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. And hey, the best of neighbors have fences, so we got to do what we got to do, right? But my hope is this. Let's find a way to strengthen this most unique and powerful region and trifecta of allies, true allies, so that we can use the power of this region to combat much bigger problems that bad actors are causing elsewhere in the globe. Kim, your thoughts?
I agree with your point on that. Like, let's all come together and fight the fair fight. I think a lot of what we're going to see in Mexico and what the president of Mexico just introduced for us is very similar to kind of what we're talking about in the United States. I mentioned this earlier in the podcast. What we're looking onto is trying to move manufacturing back into the United States, trying to drive jobs for people in the United States. So I see a lot of synergy between what Mexico is trying to accomplish and what we're trying to accomplish. And what I really hope is that we can put those two things together to make a very powerful partnership, or a throuple, so to speak, if we can get Canada in here. And then Mexico is also very uniquely positioned to be a big distribution center. We have all of Latin America that it can service, as well as it can service the United States and Canada.
Yep. And I'll tell you, folks, if you are outside supply chain or outside of manufacturing production, you may not be aware of just how much of a rock and roll market that the country of Mexico has been. For several years, a long time, but certainly in the last couple of years, it's been amazing. Okay, good stuff there, Kim. I'm looking forward. I think we're very kindred spirits in what we hope to see play out, because we got some big challenges, supply chain related and otherwise, to figure out in the months and years ahead. Okay, Amanda, I'm checking a few notes. Amanda and Trisha behind the scenes helping make production happen. Amanda loves a throuple. So they're going to steal that phrase from you, Kim. Carly Simon is who's saying Anticipation, that song that we referenced earlier. And I got something wrong. I talked about the Supply Chain Now new website, and I mentioned next year. Oh no, she says second half of 2025. That's awesome. So I appreciate that, Amanda. Got to make sure I don't make any mistakes, Kim, as we talk a lot every Monday, right?
Yes.
Let's do this. One more thing I want to do before we wrap. Let's see here. We had a special guest join us in the comments, Larry Klein, right? So Larry, if you're in position to give us an update on your personal journey, we'd love it here. We want to celebrate some good news with you. He was saying earlier, football has been hard this year. Buccaneers, Seminoles, been some tough years. That's right. At least his alma mater, he says, made the FCS playoffs. NAU Lumberjacks. That is, I wonder if that's Northern Arizona or Northern Alabama, maybe. He'll correct us. But as we start to wrap here, LK, we'd love to get an update on what how life has been treating you here lately. Jim says, I would much rather enrich Mexico with America's manufacturing outsourcing than China. I can get behind that, Kim. Could you get behind that?
I could get behind that. I mean, I would much rather see us do more manufacturing in the United States. Is my first preference. But yes, if we could move from China to Mexico, that would be fabulous.
You know, I agree with you. In every country, right, manufacturing is such a wealth generator, right? Every country wants production within its borders. There was a point I was going to make. Going to Jim's point, Jim, the pride of Flagstaff, Arizona, Flagstaff. And when I've met people from Arizona, when they talk about Flagstaff, it's just flag. I thought it was kind of cool. So if you want to sound like an Arizonian and talk about the city of Flagstaff in casual conversation, and Jim, check me if I'm wrong. But going to Jim's point about China, it's amazing because, we've heard for years, right, about folks decoupling from China, moving production, and there has been that activity, right? But get this. I wish I had my factoid handy. The United Nations, Kim, is projecting that in terms of the market share of global industrial production, that China, I think this year right now is like at 27%. And by 2030, they're going to be approaching 45, 46%. So yes. Kim, to me, that's just a billionth example of why you can't read in the headlines and assume that that's what's happening in widespread, because this headlines can be really misleading. And so despite all the movements and all the sourcing shifts, China's still doing pretty good, Kim, huh?
China's still chunking along all right. They have a big plan that they have been executing on for 20 plus years, China domination plan. And so they're executing to that. Their goal is to do all manufacturing for the whole world if they can. And I think we need to be cognizant of that. In the United States, I think it's estimated that 80% plus of what we consume here in the United States is actually made in China. So we need to even look at ourselves, right? Check your underwear is what I tell people, right? When they want to start arguing about import, where my stuff comes from, I'm like, check your undies. I bet they're from China. So, how, and we already have all this infrastructure and everything built, right. Like moving away from this is going to be a challenge. And then the other thing we see, we see this mythical shift to Southeast Asia, right? Like, okay, we're just going to move to Vietnam. China-owned companies working in Southeast Asia. We're not really getting away from China yet. Nope. We're shifting the perspective, but we're not there yet.
We're not. And, when you go back, we'll have to, we need another couple hours here, but when you go back to thinking regionally, and especially what we have here in North America, in light of what Kim is just sharing there, I hate to say something as callous as, that we have bigger fish to fry, but in many ways we do. Because I tend to agree with Jim. Me and Kim both do. When he talks about, hey, let's enrich Mexico with the U.S.'s manufacturing outsourcing. And I stand corrected. Jim was talking about Northern Arizona University. The Lumberjacks, as LK was saying earlier, is based in Flagstaff, Arizona. Really cool. Okay, Kim, a pleasure. We'll save LK's update for next time. Mondays are Mondays. Monday, everybody's busy on Monday, so I'm looking forward to LK's good news on his personal journey next go around. But Kim, you've got lots of events coming up, lots of parts of the world you'll be visiting. Is there one event that you want to make a quick plug at in case folks are at? They should come shake your hand and know you. Well,
the event that's going to be coming up, I'm going to be at TPM in March. So I will see you there. And then also I will be planning to be in Salzburg in May with the WCA again, with WCA e-commerce. Cool. And so those are my two big events I have working on right now, a couple of little small ones in there. But if you're at
those
TPM,
are big ones.
If you're going to be at TPM, I hope to see you.
All right, folks, if you're at TPM, if you're at WCA events, go track down, get out of your hotel room.
Get out of your hotel room. I'm guilty of that. That's why I called it out. Like, I'm guilty of hiding in my hotel room.
We all are. Whether sometimes all of us have maybe those introverted moments, right? And tendencies. We all have that. Or if we're just exhausted, we got to change our approach. All right. One final comment here. Shelley says, right on, Kim, more manufacturing in the U.S., but it seems like wishful thinking. I've been much more open to more in Mexico due to the proximity and cost. And I would just add to that, Shelley, we've got wonderful allies and people and partners in Mexico and Canada, right? And there's so much more opportunity there. Okay, Kim Reuter, really enjoyed today's session. Really appreciate all the shows that we do together. I'm looking forward to our next one already. So Kim Reuter, thanks for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Great to be here.
You bet. Always a pleasure. Folks, our guest, Pam Simon with Manifest. Be it Manifest. If you can't be there this year, be there next year, right? Connect with Kim. We dropped Kim's LinkedIn right here. So folks, make sure you connect with Kim. See, I'm wrapping up my to-do list here at the end. We've got the link to learn a lot more about Supply Chain Now and all the different things that we do. We try to make it easy right there. Claudia, really appreciate you stopping by. Great session. I agree. I learned a lot from Kim and Pam here today. But folks, here's the deal. Thanks to all of you that tune in, whether you're on the live version or if you're listening to the recorded podcast. We appreciate you. Keep the feedback coming. There's lots to talk about in global supply chain, but better yet, there's a lot to be done to change how business happens. And you know that is driven by deeds, not words. So with that said, on behalf of the entire team here at Supply Chain Now, Scott Luton challenging you, do good, give forward, be the change that's needed. And we'll see you next time right back here on Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.